Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to give this talk at TIF 2021. I'm going to talk about deep tech and how it matters in insurance. My name is Dr. Tan. I'm the founder, CEO of AIDA Technologies. We are a specialist AI machine learning company focused in insurance. Can I have my slides, please? Okay, what is deep tech and what has deep tech to do with insurance? I point you to this article by SG Innovate. It talks about deep tech and the difference between deep tech and general tech, right? We all know that technologies can make a big difference to businesses, especially insurance. But deep tech is different. Deep tech depends on special scientific discovery. Deep tech requires people with maybe a postgraduate or PhD degree, right? People with understanding technology deeply. Unlike general tech, which is mainly based on business innovation. Now, there's one kind of deep tech that's special, which is AI or artificial intelligence. AI is coming along to make a very big difference everywhere. Let me show you. If you look at this article from McKinsey and Company, they have published a thought leadership paper talking about how insurance in the year 2030 will look like and how AI will change the future of insurance, right? And you say that AI will go everywhere along the value chain of insurance, starting from distribution to underwriting, to pricing, and to how you do your claims. So later on, I will show you exactly how this impact is coming along in the different part of the value chain. Now, it's not just the consultants talking about deep tech. So there's this article from SCOR, one of the top reinsurers in the world. The chairman of the company of SCOR already talking about how the impact of AI will transform the insurance and the reinsurance industry. It will redefine the value proposition. It will redefine how you distribute products and services. It will enhance the efficiency of underwriting. It will enhance the efficiency of claims processing, and it will improve product innovation. Okay, that was all theory, right? Now I will going to give you some examples, very specific examples of how deep tech is used today, how AI is used today to make a very big difference. I will talk about three areas. The first area is how AI can be used to improve operational efficiency of your insurance company. What do you mean by operational efficiency? It means how do you automate things? How do you make things go faster, cheaper, and better, right? So in the area of operational efficiency, I'll give you two examples. One area of how to make claims more efficient, so you can achieve a higher automation, straight-through processing of claims, right? But not just automation. You also have the reasons why when something is approved and reasons when something is not approved, right? It's very important because you must be able to give reasons to the user. Second is AI can also be used in the automation of underwriting, right? So these are already real-world examples where AI is affecting the automation part of insurance. There's another part where AI can make a difference. This is in the area of risk management, right? Now in insurance, the volume of claims passing through the system is very high, and the dollar number involved is very high. But we know from many studies published by various international bodies, academia, and so on, of the claims that are processed, maybe 1 to 5%, maybe fraud. You know, maybe outright fraud where people are making claims they're not supposed to make to. But there are also cases where they are over-servicing and overcharging. These are softer kind of fraud, but this is also a kind of fraud. So AI can be used to detect this kind of fraudulent or unusual claims, and we find out that these fraudulent claims can come from different stakeholders in the ecosystem. Sometimes you worry about it may be coming from a doctor, or sometimes it may be coming from a hospital, sometimes it comes from agents, sometimes it comes from the consumer. So the AI can look at it and say, let you see where the fraud is coming from or where the outlier is coming from, and then you can do a deep dive. I will give you some specific examples afterwards. And then the final area that I'll show to you is how AI can be used for revenue generation. I understand in this audience, there are many people from the broker and the agent side. Actually, this may be very interesting to you because you can use AI to help you improve your business, right? So in the area of agents, we can talk about how you can do use for agent management. How do you recruit the right agents? How the AI can help you predict who's going to be a future high performer. Wouldn't it be good if you can predict who may be a future MDRP at the point they come in? And then you can monitor their performance. And then if you think the performance is not well enough, you can have feedback to help the person improve the performance, right? So improve. So you can bring up the revenue of the insurance company, right? Okay. So I will show you these three big areas: automation, risk management, and revenue generation. With that in mind, now I want to give you a real life case, a specific case that's already running in production where AI is used for making claims processing. All right. Now, I'm sure all of you are from the insurance field, so you recognize this very much, right? This is what we call the claims process, right? So what happens? Somebody has an accident, maybe have to go see a clinic or a doctor, and then what they have is they have these claims documents, right? Hospital invoices and so on. They submit to the insurance company, and the insurance company has to use this claim to decide whether the claim is approved or rejected. Actually, this is quite a complex business, and there are many, many steps to it, right? First, the document must come into the insurance, but the document, the data is inside the document, must extract the information. After you extract the information, you must make sense of it, right? You must say which is the hospital, who is the person, what's the policy number, what's the date of birth, what day the incident happened, and so on. Then you have to connect it to the policy information that's within the hospital to know what benefits are available, what benefits are already being used, how much is left, right? Now you also have to look at exclusion, right? So maybe at a point where you get a policy, you've been a smoker, so maybe smoking-related diseases are excluded, right? So in this claims processing preparation, we collect all that information so we know what is being claimed, what's the policy is being claimed against, and what's the exclusion, and so on. Now, when we put this information together, then you can put it into the AI engine, right? So the AI engine is what we call the claims decision service. The engine is trained on maybe 2 years of past data, and what the AI look at all the patterns of the claims data, it learns the pattern and learns the hidden rules, and now it knows what to do, right? So when a new claims come in, it's presented this information, it make a decision for you, say yes or no, right? Yes is fully paid or only partially paid. How much should you pay? And then if it's rejected, why is rejected, right? So this AI engine can now do this claims processing actually in under 1 minute, right? We know that when we work with insurance company, it may take a day or a few days for it to go through the whole system, but with the AI system, you can process it in under 1 minute, right? In parallel, the fraud detection engine can also come in place. So two engines. One is the claims decision, the second is the fraud detection. What the fraud detection engine does, it detects whether there's anything unusual about this claim, right? Today, when we talk to most insurance company, they don't have this fraud detection system. Whenever they detect fraud, it's too late. They already paid the claim, right? But with AI, you can run the fraud and the claims together. And if something is wrong, the fraud detection will flag it and say the claim is stopped, so that you don't pay it, right? Okay. So if everything is okay, there's nothing unusual, then actually the whole thing can be approved in, like say, under 1 minute. If something is wrong, if something doesn't seem right, to protect the insurance company, the claim is sent to an assessor. Now the assessor will review. With all the information already given to the person, the assessor will review and say, okay, do I agree? Do I do not agree? And what do you want to do, right? And then whatever the assessor do, the learning can be sent as a feedback. The AI engine learns from it and it keeps improving itself, right? Now, if nothing is wrong, then it's sent to payment and generate the letters. So this is the claims processing system. I want to now show you what is the performance possible when you use an AI system, right? Okay. I must tell you this, right? We all know that claims processing and insurance is very complex, right? Because you're always trying to trade off how much automation you want versus how many errors the system may make and how much it costs the insurance company. So there's a trade-off to be done. what the system can do, what the AI system can do after it processes, say, 2 years worth of data, it can give you what this thing called a calculator, a simulator. You can look at your operating conditions and play and adjust your operating condition, and then it will tell you where is the optimal operating point for your company so that you minimize your risk, right? You are able to trade off the degree of straight-through processing with the amount of leakage you're willing to take. So we find that the same solution when used in, say, a high-cost country like Singapore, where labor is very expensive, you have a one operating point. When you operate in a lower-cost country, you have a different operating point. But the power is given to the person operating the system to decide how he wants to use it. Okay, now I want to give you the key benefits of using AI, right? The key benefits is this. Number one, you can achieve up to 60% faster assessment, right? Instead of taking a long time, now shorten the time. Now what that means is that you're able to respond back to your policyholder whether the claim is approved or not. It results in better net promoter score for the company. You can also reduce the fraud. We think you can reduce the fraud by 50%. Now, in dollar terms, it's actually very significant. And finally, you can achieve a high degree of automation, and then the resources are freed up can be used to look at the more difficult cases and then tackle the more difficult cases which the AI cannot handle. So increase the value add of the people. Now, actually, many people have deployed. We have deployed with Prudential, and in fact, they even give us make some press release and run a roundtable of how it works. And in another places where it has been deployed is deployed in AIA Singapore, and they actually won an award. And these are some of the details. Actually, it's working on what we call the shield plans, which is actually a health insurance plan almost every Singaporean has, okay? And actually, it increased the straight-through processing rate, over 50% increase in assessor efficiency, and increased customer rating, right? Okay, so that was a quick overview of how AI can be used in claims processing and automation, much faster, very accurate, and so on. I want to talk about a second area where AI can be used to great effect for the insurance company, right? Now, this is the area of fraud, right? In fact, we have a country model for Thailand. We've seen different fraud scenarios in Thailand, so we're very familiar. So you will see some examples now. Now, what do we mean by fraud? We look at outlier for health claims, right? So when we look at fraud, we look at cases of overcharging at the claims level, at the benefit level, or the line item level. We also look at over-servicing. We also look at unbundling, right? We can look at ICD specific views. We can look at a hospital view. Okay. All right. So this is a case. Let me give you an example. So suppose you have processed a large number of claims. In this particular case, we have processed 2.6 million claims, right? Of the 2.6 million claims that come in, we realize that about 10%, 185,000, has some degree of outlierness. But in terms of dollar number, the total number of claims processed is, I think, 15 billion baht, okay? But the claims arising from outlier account for 30%, 6.3 billion baht, right? So now we look at what are the top diagnoses. That means which disease is contributing mostly to this potential fraud, right? So we see things like W55, which is contact with mammals. We see R50, which is a fever, and so on, right? And then you see for each of these outlier, what is it coming from? Is it coming from increase in claims cost? Is it people staying too long? Or is it because surgery fee is very high? And then you can see the breakdown in detail, right? You can click into each one of these and then do a deep dive to see, okay, which claim number, what is the policy number related to the claim, what was the registration date, whether it's an inpatient or outpatient claim, which hospital is coming from, and what's the value. Not just that, we tell you what's the degree of outlierness. That tells you how much of an outlier it is, and then what are the reasons. What are the reasons, and you can do a deep dive. Right? Okay. So in this particular case, what we have done now is we deep dive into one, right? We deep dive into W55, right? When you deep dive in W55, then you see every time a W55 comes, the claims cost is very high. And then now you can see which hospitals are giving you W55 and then where it comes from. Now, you can go even one level deeper. So let's look at this particular claim. This claim is claim number ID, ICD is W55. It's an outpatient claim. There was no surgery. There's no ICU. And we find that outlier score of 0.95 means high degree of outlier. The total bill is 43,155 baht. We have seen 31,000 similar claims. So we compare this claim with 31,000 other claims, right? And then from there, we know whether this is normal or not normal. So we can see, for example, if you look here, the key risk indicator, the claims cost is 45,000. Actually, for W55, it can be as low as 405 baht to maybe the upper limit of 3,200 baht. This particular claim is 43,000 baht. So it's 10 times higher than the 90% quartile, right? So it's actually a very high cost, very expensive claim. And where is it coming from? Then you look at, outpatient medication is costing 40,000 baht, right? And most of the time, outpatient medication across the 31,000 claims, only about 2,600 baht, right? So it gives you an idea of which are the claims that are unusual and where the high cost is coming from, okay? So using AI, we can generate this kind of score for every claim in your system. And then whenever you want to investigate in detail, you can go deep down into this level of detail. Right? So we think that is a very, very powerful tool for insurers to minimize fraud using AI. Now, actually, we have actually applied this AI model in 5 countries, right? Thailand, of course, then Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And we find generally about 1 to 2% of all claims may be outlier. Then when actually go and do a deep dive investigation, usually maybe about 10, 15%, 10 to 30% may be real outliers in which the insurer wants to take action. And the amount of money that can be saved actually is quite significant, right? And then you can reduce costs for everybody, benefit the entire ecosystem, right? Okay, so that is an example of fraud. And I would say we'll be launching this fraud service in all these countries from October onwards. All right, and now I go to the third example, the third class example. The first one was automation. The second one was risk. Now I thought about third one is how to get more revenue, right? And because I think there's a large group of agents and brokers here, maybe this one may be interesting to some of the segments here, right? Okay. So how does this work? How can AI be used in this area? So AI can be used in this area to give you a good picture about your agents and your agent's performance, right? We can detect things like, we can detect who is going to be high-performing agents. We can detect maybe before a policy lapse, you can then flag to the agent that, hey, because an agent may have 20 policies under his portfolio. If let's say a policy has the danger of lapsing, we alert so the agent can take action, right? Yeah. So it actually improves overall performance of everybody. Another area is we can predict which agent is going to meet their performance metrics in terms of either commission or whether they will be active in that particular month or whether they are persistent or whether they are going to achieve their annual targets, right? Yeah. We can also predict if an agent is going to leave the company, right? So all these things can be predicted from the behavior of the agent when they are in the system. Overall, improve in sales and distribution. Right. Yeah. Another way it can use is it can also be used for monitoring of misconduct or mis-selling. Right. Yeah. We also have people using it for that purposes. And actually, this kind of model have been tested in multiple countries. We have tested it in Singapore. We tested in Hong Kong, Thailand, Malaysia, and also India, right? India, the number of agents is very large, right? 40,000 in any one month, right? Of the 40,000, maybe only about 4,000 are active, right? But the thing is, you do not know which agent is going to be active, but the AI can predict and tell you of your 40,000 agents, which will be active, so that whenever you have a lead, you can marry the lead to the right agent to make the most of your leads. All right, so I'll give you some numbers about because these are really numbers that we work with different insurers. So can you predict who is going to be a future MDRT in the next 12 months ahead of time, right? If we use only demographic information, our accuracy is about 84%. But if you use demographic plus, you have 3 months of performance, the accuracy can go up to over 90%, right? Who's going to meet their sales target? Same thing. We can do the prediction either using demographics alone or demographics plus some months of prediction, right? We can also predict who's going to be at risk. That means which agent may leave and then go away and do something else with a very high degree of accuracy. All right. Okay. So we create dashboards like that to help the agency lead. With one look, you can see, oh, is this agent going to be a future MDRT? How does the profile meet compared to the ideal agent? You know, because we study a lot of agents, we have a certain profile that tell you whether this person is going to meet the target or not. And then we're going to look at we tell you which feature is important for making this prediction. So these are all the dashboards that are provided. Right. All right. So what I've done is I've introduced you to deep tech and what is AI, how AI can be used in insurance, how even McKinsey, SCORE are thinking that AI is going to come to be very important. So all those things are good things about AI, right? So towards the end, before I end, I also want to alert you that AI can go wrong, right? What happens when AI go wrong? So in this particular example, it's not an insurance example, but it's from Amazon. Amazon used AI to help the recruiting people to work in their technical jobs. Very similar, like maybe you may use an AI to help you recruit your agents, right? You got to do it right. So in this particular case, Amazon built a model to help them recruit people, but the model contained bias. So there's a tendency to only hire white people and males, right? Because historically, white people and males have been successful in Amazon, so it end up discriminating against females and non-white people. So what I'm saying to you is, if you use AI for your recruitment of agents, please make sure you do it right so that you don't build in discrimination in your system. Another example, because you are insurance audience, auto insurance is very, very important. You find that AI is going to be used in a car, right? Especially in autonomous vehicle, right? So in this case, it's a US example where Tesla, the autopilot in Tesla, engaged and killed a pedestrian, right? So in this case, who is to be blamed? Is it, you cannot blame the driver because the driver is not driving, right? The AI is taken over. Do you blame the software? Do you blame the car manufacturer? So who will be responsible? So all these are interesting issues that need to be resolved before AI can be used to take over this autopilot of car vehicles. Okay, now that's a problem, but is there a way to avoid the pitfalls when you deploy AI, right? Fortunately, many people have thought about this, and fortunately, there's a good solution to how do you apply AI well. And in this particular case, I would say Singapore has some contribution, right? So in Singapore, the regulator, the finance regulator is called MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore. They come up with a guideline on how to design AI well. And the guideline is called FEAT. It's fairness, ethics, accountable, and transparency. And if you are a financial institution in Singapore, you have to follow this guideline, right? There's another guideline come out by PDPC, which is a Personal Data Protection Commission. It came up with a model AI governance framework so that whenever you use PII, personal identifiable information, how you should use it so that you design good AI, right? I will now give you a very quick overview of FEAP so that you get a sense for what it is and how to use it. Okay, so FEAP, the principle to promote fairness, ethics, accountable, transparency for the financial sector, right? It's written with the help of a committee of very senior people from the industry, technology specialists, and so on. And fairness. Fairness means what? AI should be fair to people. AI should not be biased. Like, for example, the example where it was a bias towards white and male. So when you design the AI, you have to make sure your data and the historical data you use are reviewed properly to make sure that there are no bias developed into the system, right? Yeah. Second, we talk about ethics. The use of AI must be aligned with the company's ethical standards, values, and codes of conduct. You cannot say that, oh, the AI told me to do this, I follow it. What you're saying, at the end of the day, the company is still responsible for the ethical use of AI. You cannot blame the AI for its decision, because at the end of the day, the human, the management is responsible to control how the AI is to be used. The third point is accountable. The AI must be accountable, meaning that when the AI is designed, somebody in the company must be held responsible to approve how the AI is designed and how it's used in the system. So there must be a chain of command going all the way up to the board, so the board is aware, senior management is in control, how the AI is designed, how the data is used, so that when the AI is used, it does not cause any problem, ethical problem, or code of conduct issues. And finally, the fourth area is transparency. Because AI is such a powerful thing, do not hide when you are using AI. You must tell people that I'm using AI to give you better service, so that I can give you faster service, a more accurate service, and also maybe a shorter response time, right? So let people know you're using AI. Don't hide it, because what people are concerned about is when people hide it, trust may be lost. And then later, if let's say something goes wrong, then AI get a bad name, right? Yeah. And finally, I want to introduce this idea of how AI will be used. So on the y-axis is how harmful it is when it goes wrong. On the x-axis, what's the probability of error, right? So if you operate in a case whereby the probability of error is very low and the harm is very low, then you can automate everything, no harm to anything. But in the cases where the probability of error is very high, the harm is high, then maybe that area you do not use AI at all, because the risk is too high. Then on other areas, when the probability of error is very high, but the harm is low, you may have a human in the loop, so that AI makes a recommendation, but the human makes the final decision, right? So this is a framework on how you deploy AI. So my final slide is to talk about AI being a very powerful tool, and like all tools, the AI can be used for good, or the AI can be used for bad. And do not fear AI, right? So in this case, when automotive was first introduced in Britain, there's this thing called the Red Flag Act, right? Because people are fearful of new technology, everybody using horses, so they wanted a man with a red flag to move in front of the car so that no danger can happen, right? If they kept to this rule, then we will not have our fantastic supercars, and the transportation industry will not have developed to where it is today. So likewise for AI, in the early days, there may be some issue, but what you need to do is use FEAT, good governance, then you have good AI, right? And then the power of AI can spread everywhere, and it can flow from distribution, automation, risk management. It can flow everywhere and result in benefit to everybody in the ecosystem, right? So with that, I also want to introduce a white paper that I have already written. So for people who are interested to see this white paper, you can make contact with me. This white paper takes the lessons from MAS, FEAT, PDC's, PDPC's recommendation, put together in a form that recommends when you deploy what you need to do, right? It helps people trying to deploy system what to look out for. So with that, I thank TIF 2021 for inviting me to give this keynote. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.